So I just got back from my walk with the Scx10. This thing, I'm going to try not to be biased here because you know that I love this thing straight away. I've got a personal relationship with one of these. I think because it was my first rock crawler, I know how good that they perform, and I knew it would be satisfying to drive straight away, even stock like this. No link upgrades. It's got plastic links. It's got the basic drive shafts, and I know they have their wear and tear problems with those. The links become flexible, the drive shafts twist if you put too much load on them, but straight out of the box, that is one of the best rock crawlers I have ever driven. You know, you can argue the Viterra Ascender is fantastic out of the box. I agree with that. I think it's great too, but that has upgrades, you know, straight away. You've got metal links, you've got all the softer tires, everything. It's lighter. This thing is pretty damn heavy. Like, I'm running a nickel metal hydride 7.4 volt battery in this, and you know, it doesn't need anything else. It doesn't need a lipo, it doesn't need anything. It just goes. It's got a 27 turn motor in it, and it performs fantastically. I don't think it needs anything to upgrade. Yeah, I've got spare links if I need to adjust them. If I need to upgrade in the future, that's fine. I mean, that's a simple, cheap option to do. So there's really bad glare here. There we go. Cheap option to do, and it will make it a better car. But out of the box, I can't fault it. The steering's good. The links are holding up well. The tires are super grippy. You know, it doesn't get better, in my opinion. I think, you know, if you would have the equivalent of this car sold now, you couldn't sell it for what it was worth back then. You know, you're looking at $500 plus batteries, plus chargers, plus all that stuff. You would not get away with the price that it was selling for back then. But for what it is now, I mean, I picked this one up secondhand, but it had barely been used. As you saw, there was a few scratches on it, stuff like that. Oh well, you know, it's only a few scratches, but everything was on there. The mirrors didn't break off, none of the links were broken. It had some minor corrosion because I'd say it's had some wet weather use, but apart from that, stock has never been upgraded, never had anything extra put on it, and it's awesome straight out of the box, just like the original one that I drove when I bought it brand new. You know, I think I bought that back in 2008. No, 2013. I think it was 2013 I bought mine, and I drove that thing so much, and wet weather, everything, and it was just great. It was such a good car. But with this one, I don't know, I've got a little bit more experience with RC cars now. I think I can appreciate it for what it is now than what it used to be even back then. You know, driving this, look how soft the shocks are. It's almost like there's no oil in them. They're so soft, and when it's flexing, it's beautiful. The tires are super soft. The foams are fine, so I'm questioning whether it's had wet weather use or not. I did ask the guy, he was a bit like, oh, I don't know. But you know, from a few bolts, they had a little bit of corrosion in them, but it drives like it's straight out of the box. There's nothing wrong with it. The motor was a little bit squeaky, so I just added a little bit of WD-40 to the end bearing, and it cleared up straight away. If you can get your hands on them, I reckon personally these are just out of the box perfect. Wouldn't change a thing. If you did upgrade them, straight first thing, steering link, because it's weak. That's just how they are. The rear links as well, when you're going up a hill, sometimes if it's gripping on the tires too much, it'll actually fold up underneath if it causes a problem. But I haven't had any problems with that today. I drove up heaps of different rocks, slippery stuff, gripped everything. I nearly fell over and slipped on some green moss, but it just did better than I did. Yeah, I recommend if you can get one. They're friggin' hard to find now. but especially, like, I mean, in this condition, so many SCX10s out there modified, but to get one straight out of the box condition with the box, you know, I paid probably about $300 for it, which was realistically, for what it is, it's probably on the higher end, but you know, bog stock, nothing. That's pretty damn good. $300 is pretty damn good. But yeah, if you can get your hands on one, just grab one, because they're so much fun. You know, crawlers are getting really expensive now, as you can probably tell, especially going up SCX10 2 to 3. You're climbing up into the $800 range in Australia. That's really expensive for a rock crawler. And to get sort of one like this, yeah, you know, I think it's kind of worth it. It's kind of worth paying $300, $350. I probably wouldn't pay more than that personally. You know, they can range. I saw them up online. There was one up online recently for $500, and I mean, if I stretched it, yeah, I'd probably still pay that, because it is such an iconic car to me personally. With what you can get now, that's getting steep, but you know, 300 to 400, I think that's pretty damn spot on. And if you have one already, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about with the points that I've made. And I think to experience it yourself, it looks so basic, but to experience it, it drives amazing. It's so good. The shocks are great out of the box. One of the best SCX10 shocks you can get that are full plastic. I haven't had any issues with them. They don't leak. They don't have any problems with being, like, straight out of the box. I'm talking about not adding different oils or anything like that. But for what it is, I can't fault it. Like, I'm trying to find fault. There was nothing I didn't enjoy about that. Even I got to a side hill at one stage on quite a experienced level of crawling rock, and it just walked it. It didn't roll. It didn't have any issue. It's really well balanced. You know, my other rock crawlers, because obviously they've been modified, but they would just tip over. And even one of my Viteras, they're one of the best crawlers that you can get with all stock upgrades. That thing would have tipped over on some of the stuff I was taking it on, but because this is so heavy, so the problem with the Viteras is they're too light. So they're fantastic for crawling, but they're not overly well balanced. The chassis is heavy, the body's light, but the whole thing overall is actually a little bit too light, whereas these are stock quite heavy. And you'll find stuff like the Viteras or Lossies, anything like that, you'll find them super, super light. But sometimes you need weight when you're rock crawling. That's why you get weighted parts put on them, like your brass parts, and putting weights in the wheels, things like that. My original one, I actually put a ring of wheel weights inside the tire, which made it fantastic to drive. But that's modifying it. You know, you can modify any of the cars to make them perfect. But as soon as you start adding too much crap to the body, it just flips. You know, you'll always just keep flipping over because you're just adding too much top end weight. These, like, incredibly straight out of the box, they're so well balanced from top to bottom. You know, the chassis is already pretty heavy, but then you come up and all this is weighted. That weighs probably as much as one of my rock crawlers that has metal wheels and thicker tires and all that sort of stuff. That's about the weight of it. And I mean, I could measure it, but I can't be bothered. When it's driving, it has this planted feel about it. It just hits the rocks like a real car. It has that realism to it, which I find some RC cars are lacking a bit now. I think some of them are so overly refined that you don't get that without putting servos on the shocks and having all the computers to mimic rocking and things like that. You know, a lot of cars are getting a little bit too cartoony almost. They drive so well that they're getting beyond a real car can, if that makes sense. That's just my opinion from driving some cars. I've got rock crawlers that I don't love. You know, I've got my Red Cat Gen 7 that is just the closest thing to this SCX10, but even this beats it. I love my Gen 7, but even this is better straight out of the box. And you know, you have problems with Gen 7s, like the shocks do tend to have a leaking issue, but basically they're quite good. You know, you have things that do break on them, but any car has its faults. I find with the links being the only real fault with these, I wouldn't change anything else. Everything else works. Like the steering link, it will cause your wheels to bow in a little bit, but it's not a pain in the ass. It's just, you just upgrade that. It's like a $6 part, and then you can get some links for $30 all through, and then it's solid as a rock. But you know, I think because it's got plastic parts in it, it sort of gives it a bit more realism when it's driving. It's sort of, you know, your wheel does want to tuck a little bit and bend and twist, but as soon as you start putting all your metal links on, it becomes so rigid that some of the things you hit will end up kicking you, and you'll roll over, and things like that happen. And I know that from upgrading my original one. I had metal links all over it. I did all those upgrades, upgraded the I had shock extenders, so it sat higher. And as soon as you start doing mods like that, it throws the dynamics all out. This straight from the box is so good. I think if I was going to change one thing, it would just be, for peace of mind, would be the prop shafts. You can upgrade them for $25 or something like that, and you just know it's never going to twist those shafts. They have like almost like a telescopic honeycomb, or not honeycomb shape, but like a hexagonal sort of shape with little end bits on it. And what it does, because it's hollow plastic, it twists in the middle, and it ends up fully twisting up, and you can't repair it. You just throw them out. And that's the stupid little insert that they've got inside as well that does nothing good to it. So I'd go metal drive shaft straight away. I think HG make the clone version of the SCX10. I'm probably wrong with that one. It's a different Chinese brand, but they make metal drive shafts for it, and it bolts straight into this. So you know, you can upgrade it really cheap. And if I was going to do something, it'd be that and the steering links. But then again, I keep going back to it. Why bother unless it starts performing really weird, which after some use the plastics do soften up a little bit and you'll find they'll be less rigid, then you upgrade it. But anyway, that's just a few of my thoughts on the SCX10. I really highly recommend one if you can afford one, to just go out and buy it, because they're really getting hard to find now. So if one pops up, just grab it, and you'll see straight away what I mean by how it drives. It's worth it. Anyway.